Let the assembly say, praise Yahweh. Let us all stand to our feet as we go into prayer. Abba Yahweh, we come before you on your Shabbat, standing before you, Abba Yahweh, giving you Todah, giving you praise of all things that have been done in our lives. Abba Yahweh, continue to look over your people, continue to help us to be sincere, help us to walk upright, help us to want to do your will. Abba Yahweh, help us to get rid of any amount of sin, wickedness, evil in our bodies. Help us to be ready when your Kodesh days come around. Help us to walk as an upright people, walk as a Kodesh nation that you want, that you have called. Abba Yahweh, help us to be examples unto others on how to live this way of life. Yahweh, continue to help us to not take this way of life for granted. Help us, Abba Yahweh, to delight in it and to want to teach our children this way of life. Abba Yahweh, help us as a nation to be as one like mind. Help us as a nation to stand for your almighty name. Help us as a nation to walk in that straight and narrow path to salvation. Abba Yahweh, continue to be with us as we walk this way of life in these last days. Continue to guide our footsteps. Continue to even protect us from all that may go on in this world. Protect us from any amount of evil, wickedness that may go on. And protect us, Abba Yahweh, from the wrath that will come down on this earth. The wrath that will come down on those that do wickedness and evil. Abba Yahweh, help strengthen us. Help strengthen us in the way that anything in this world will not distract us from your ways. Help strengthen us so we won't fall in Shaitan's snares or tactics. Strengthen us, Abba Yahweh, so we will walk upright, walk with strength in your son, Yahshua HaMashiach. Walk in the way that we will be able to see your face in peace and have you welcome us in your kingdom with welcome arms and be glad of all the things that we have done in our lifetime. In Yahshua HaMashiach's name we pray. Hallelujah. House of Israel, you may be seated. It is tough, Israel, to just be in the house of Israel, the Yahweh's house on his Shabbat. It is tough to be amongst brethren. This day, I want to welcome all in the house of Israel. I want to welcome all that are tuning on the live stream. And I just want to say, Yahweh looks over us. Continue, Israel, to just be there for Yahweh. Continue to just stand for his name all the days of your lives. I pray that Yahweh continue to be with us as his people. Be with us whenever we need him. Be with us when we're sick, when we're in distress. I pray Yahweh continue to always be with you when you need him. So this day, I would like to read from the book of Psalms. This is the book of Tehillim. Now I want to read from Psalms 51. And it says, have mercy or hasi on me, O Yahweh, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion. Blot out my transgressions. Wash away all my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, you only have I sinned, and done what is evil in your sight, so that you are proved right when you speak, and justified when you judge. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Surely you desire truth in the inward parts. You teach me wisdom in the inmost place. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be purer than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities. Create in me a pure life, O Yahweh, and renew a steadfast spirit in me. Do not cast me from your presence, or take your ruach from me. Restore me the joy of your salvation, and grant me a willing ruach to sustain me. Then I will teach transgressors your ways, and sinners will turn back to you. Save me from the blood guilt, O Yahweh, the Abba who saves me, and my tongue will sing of your righteousness. O Yahweh, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. You do not delight in sacrifice, or I will bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings, since the sacrifices of Yahweh are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. O Yahweh, you will not despise. And your toes pleasure make Zion prosper. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then there will be a righteous sacrifice, whole burnt offerings to delight you. Then bulls will be offered on your altar. Hallelujah. So as we come approaching his feast days, approaching Pesach, Feast of Unleavened Bread, this is very important for us. That prayer that we said is very important, that we look at ourselves also and want to be right, want to get rid of sin that is dwelling within us. Yahweh does not want us to partake in his Kodesh days if we still sinning, if we still dealing with wickedness. We have to be upright. We have to be pure in order to walk in front of Yahweh. So this message this evening is drawing closer to Yahweh. So we have to continually draw closer to Yahweh. How do we do that? Obeying him, taking heed to all the things that he commands in this book. Every day that we sin, we continually sin each and every day. We drawing further and further away from him. And how do you expect him to save us if we want to draw further and further from him? How do you expect for him to answer you when you pray or cry out to him if you're drawing further and further away from him? So that's the importance of this feast that's coming up. He wants us to get rid of that sin, that leaven. It's symbolic. So we have to take this serious. It's not just any day we coming approaching to. This day he wants us to be right. It's a renewal. If you look in nature, you see how the dead season is gone. Now the growing season is starting. Everything's starting brand new. So as far as us, we have to get rid of those sins that we partook of in the past, and start brand new. Start thinking with a new mind. Want to follow in Yahweh's ways and not do any type of sin. So let's get into this message on how we can draw closer to Almighty Yahweh. Now let's go to the book of Mark. This is Mark chapter 12. I'm going to start at verse 28. It says, one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Yahshua had given them a tough answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? So Yahshua says, the most important one, answered Yahshua. He said, hear, Shema, O Israel. Yahweh, Abba. Yahweh is one. Love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. That's with everything you have within you. He doesn't want anything less of that. He doesn't want you to love him partially, love him when you want to love him. He wants you to love him wholeheartedly with all your strength. It says, the second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. It says there is no commandment greater than these. So teacher says, well said. You are right in saying that Yahweh is one and there is no other but him. To love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, and with all your strength. And to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices. And see, he doesn't care about all this, the offerings, if you don't come to him with a pure love. He doesn't care about what you offering up if you're not going to obey him. So, see, the man, he noticed, okay, that is important. He gave a tough answer. And Yahshua, he knew, he could discern, okay, this man is true. He's not just being false. He knows that what I say is true. So when we hear truth, we should want to hear that truth and take great delight in that. And when we hear the truth, we have to do what the truth says, do what Almighty Yahweh tells us to do. So the next verse, it says, when Yahshua saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, you are not far from the kingdom of Yahweh. See, he knew what he was supposed to do. He knew that that answer, okay, that is what is going to draw me closer to Yahweh, draw me closer to the kingdom. So Yahshua said, you are on your way. You are doing what you're supposed to do. So, and then it says, and from then on, no one dared to ask him any more questions. Because they knew, okay, that he answered correctly. That was a true answer. And if I want to make it, I need to do these things. Because he said those two are most important of all. Those tie into all the rest of the commandments. So if we don't do those, we in error. If we don't love Yahweh, then we're gonna do all types, sorts of things that Yahweh doesn't command. We're gonna go astray. We're gonna do things that anger Almighty Yahweh. So, like he said, you must love me with all your heart. If you love him somewhat, a little bit, then you're gonna love something else also in the world that's gonna take you away from Almighty Yahweh. If you don't love your neighbor, then you don't love Yahweh also. So that's drawing closer to Yahweh. that right there, he tells us what we must do in order to be on our way to salvation. Let's go to Isaiah, speaking of the offerings that he doesn't accept if we don't obey him. Let's go to Yeshaya, Isaiah chapter 1. Yeshaya chapter 1 chapter, verse 11. It says, the multitude of your sacrifices, what are they to me? Says Yahweh. I have more than enough burnt offerings of rams and of fat of fattened animals. I have no pleasure in the blood of bulls and lambs and goats. So he has all of that. You know, just because you offering it to him with not a pure lev, he don't want it. He already has all this stuff. You know, we had to come to him pure so he will accept whatever we offer up to him. It says, when you come to appear before me, who has asked this of you? This trampling of my courts. It says, stop bringing meaningless offers. Your incense is detestable to me. So everything we doing when we performing wickedness and evil is a stench in Yahweh's nostrils. Yahweh does not like it. He says, your new moons, Shabbats, and convocations, I cannot bear your evil assemblies. Your new moon festivals and your appointed feasts, my soul hates. Is you're not doing it right. You're not doing it with a pure love like he said commands. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. It says, when you spread out your hands in prayer, I will hide my eyes from you. Even if you offer many prayers, I will not listen. See, you can pray all day. He's still not going to listen because you didn't angered him that much where he's going to turn his back on you. You know, all the time that he been there for you, all the things that he has done in your lives, and you for you to not obey him, turn your back on him, that's what he's going to do on you. If you're not going to obey him and take heed to his words, he's going to turn it right back around on you. So when times get hard, when you need him and you try to cry out to him, he's not going to listen. And you're going to wonder why, okay, why is Yahweh not answering my prayers? Because not being obedient. So it says, your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. See, we have to learn. We had, like it said, Shema. Hear, O Israel. He wants you to hear his words. Listen to what he commanded so you can learn. If we're not listening, how you going to learn how to do tub? How you going to learn what Yahweh wants to command? Now, you see as a child, when a child is born, child don't come out knowing everything, telling you what to do. Child has to be taught. The child has to learn. So the child listens to everything that you are telling him. The same thing with us. We have to be taught the ways of Yahweh. We have to listen to what Yahweh has to say so we can be in that straight and narrow path. You know, so, but if we listen and don't do the things that he commands, that's on us. Because you have no excuse. You heard. So he says, wash and make yourselves clean. And you know, Israel, he told Israel to clean up 3 days so they can be able to stand in front of Yahweh. So Yahweh wants us to be clean, pure. Like I said, we can't come to his feast days just any kind of way. He's not going to accept us. No, so like I said, we have to take this serious when we approach his feast days. That just starts your cleansing at first feast, the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It's the beginning, so you be on your way to the kingdom. That's what these Kodesh days point to, his kingdom. So if we don't take it serious to begin with, from the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, how you think we're gonna make it through the rest of it? So Yahweh wants us to be clean, wants us to stop doing wrong and just learn to do right. It's not anything hard. Yahweh doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. We just have to put it in our minds that we want to do this, that we want to walk this way of life, and we want to see salvation. So let's go to the book of Matthew. Speaking of, says love your neighbor. And if you basically love your neighbor, you love Yahweh also. Because if you think about it, Yahshua, he's in each and every one of us. So if we help each other out, if we help each other when someone is in need, you helping Yahweh also. So as we go to Matthew chapter 25, starting at the 31st verse, it says, when the Son of Man comes in his honor and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly majesty. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. So we want to be on that right side. We don't want to be on the left side where we didn't listen, so Yahweh put us aside and don't accept us. Verse 34 says, then the king will say to those on the right, come, you who are Baruch, by my Abba, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And then the righteous will answer him, Yahshua, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? They looking like, what? We didn't do this for you. What are you saying? So Yahshua explains, says the king replied, I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. So that's loving your neighbor. Once you love your neighbor, you love Yahweh also, because Yahweh says love with all of your heart. So you won't mind helping your brethren out also. Now it's hypocritical if you saying you love Yahweh, but you can't love your brother. You can't help your brother out when he's in need. So you can't say you love Yahweh if you don't love your brother. Let's go to James chapter 1. James chapter 1, verse 19. Still talks about, like in Mark, it says Shema. We have to hear. So James chapter 1, verse 19 says, "My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that Yahweh desires." See, slow to speak. We want to be quick to listen. You didn't see people talking over Yahshua, and definitely not going to see people talking over Yahweh in that judgment day. It's going to be complete silence, because when Yahweh speaks, it is true. You can't go against anything he says. If he said this is what you have done, you can't lie and say you didn't do it. Yahweh has everything on record. And it says, don't get angry to the point where you will sin. Because that's how Shaitan gets you. He gets you angry, gets you out your character, and you'll do things that you normally wouldn't do. So that's why he says, for man's anger does not bring about a righteous life that Yahweh desires. Because you'll do something out of character that you don't normally do. And then that gives a way for Shaitan to come in. It says, therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent. Now, if you don't think evil is prevalent, you haven't been outside, you haven't been in the world, you haven't seen the news. I mean, it's everywhere. So we can't let that evil consume us. We have to continue to walk in Yahweh's ways so that evil will not consume us. It says, and humbly accept the word planted in you. Yahweh planted this in you, Israel. He saw that you were that pleasing to him. He chose you out of all the nations, put his word in you. You of all people, you know the mysteries of his word. So we had to take great delight in that and want to walk in his ways, because he entrusted that to us. So, and it says, which can save you. So he's giving you everything that you need so you can survive. Everything that you need so you can make it salvation. So we have no excuse. So once we continue to walk in his ways, take great delight in it, that it'll flow easy on us because it's within us. So we have to believe. We have to have faith that whatever Yahweh says, it is true. That's how we will walk in his ways. Now, when we don't walk in his ways, we show that we don't have faith in him. We show that we don't believe in him and do our own thing. And that's what he does not want that. It says in verse 22, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Now, people, you tell them something, oh, yeah, I get it, yes. And then you see them turn around and do that complete opposite of what you told them. You didn't listen to what I said. So Yahweh says, don't deceive yourself. Like, okay, yeah, I got this, but actually you didn't. It says, do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says, it's like a man who looks at his face in the mirror and, after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. Now, who does that? Who forgets what they look like? It shouldn't be. So when we hear the word, we must do it. Can't just hear it and then don't do it. He wants us to hear it and do what he says. Can't be forgetful of what he says. Like it says, you forget what you look like. It shouldn't be. So when we walk in this way, we show that we are with Yahweh when we actually are doing what he says. When we actually are walking this way of life, not just hearing it. And it'll show who are really true in Yahweh because they will do everything that Yahweh commands them. So it says, but the man who looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be Baruch in what he does. So Yahweh will be with you. Yahweh will be with you in a way that everything that you do is prosper. Everything that you do, he will see you through it because you are doing actually what he commands. You are doing the will of Yahweh like his son Yahshua HaMashiach. So we can't, like I said, we can't just hear the word and not do it. And we can't say, okay, we didn't hear it because it was given to you. And Yahweh in Judgment Day will say, okay, such and such person did tell you what to do, but you didn't want to hear it. You don't want to have something go on your ear and go right back out the other ear. You want to hear it and take note of it. It says, man who looks intently into the perfect law. That means searches it each and every day of his life. Want to know what the mysteries of Almighty Yahweh is. We don't want to just read it every now and then or don't read it at all. We want to continually search out his word. Intently, it says, because Yahweh wants us to know his word. Yahweh wants us to walk upright. We can't walk upright if we don't know it. We can't walk upright if we don't know what Yahweh wants of us. So that draws us closer to Yahweh also, because he sees that we are sincere. He sees that we want to know him, want to know his Torah, and walk in his ways all the days of his life or our lives. Let's go to Exodus. This is Exodus, verse 19. It gives, like back in the day, it gives Israel commands, what to do, tells them how to live, what to do so they be able to make it. So it's on us that we take heed to it and listen to what he has to say and do it. Let's listen to what Israel had to say in chapter 19 of Exodus, starting at verse 1. It says, in the third month after the Israelites left Egypt or Mizraim, on the very day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, after they set out from Rephidim, they entered the wilderness of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the wilderness in front of the mountain. Then Moshe went up to Yahweh. Yahweh called to him from the mountain and said, this is what you are to say to the house of your code, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, that right there, you see that in Revelations 12, when he says, I'll bring you eagle's wings into the wilderness to shield you from the things Shaitan will send your way. So it says, now if you obey me fully, it says fully, not halfway, not somewhat. If you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Something that's unique, something that's cared for, something that's protected. Yahweh will see that on you. And Yahweh, like I said, he will be with you and protect you from all things. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a Kodesh nation. That's you of all people. Out of the whole earth, he has chosen you to be Kodesh. So, like I said, have to take it serious because he chose you. These are the words you ought to speak to the Israelites. Now, see, if we don't take this serious, we just like the other nations. We can't say that we are the people of Yahweh if we're not actually walking in his ways. So it says, verse 7. So Moshe went back and summoned the elders of the people and set before them all the words Yahweh had commanded him to speak. So the people all responded together, "We will do everything Yahweh has said." So Moshe brought their answer back to Yahweh. They said, "We will do everything Yahweh has said." Did they do everything Yahweh said? See, have to listen to what Yahweh says and actually do it. They didn't do it. Soon as Yahweh gives the commands to them, they were so quickly to turn to a golden calf and worship that. Out of all the things he said he has done for you, brought you out of Egypt, you saw what he did to Pharaoh, but you turn to other God, another God. You turn to worship something that can't even save you. Now, how foolish does that sound? But it still goes on to this day. You know, people, they worship different things instead of Yahweh. You know, Yahweh is the only one that's going to save you. The people even worship material things before Yahweh. Look at the world. You got cars, money, women, family, even worship before Yahweh, take precedent before Yahweh. You know, it's a lot of things that Yahweh does not like. So let's go to Exodus 20. And the first four commandments are between the relationship between you and Yahweh, how much you actually love him. The first four is going to show, okay, do you really love him? Let's start at chapter 20, verse 1. It says, "I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of Mizraim, out of the land of bondage. You shall have no gods before me." But they went and worshiped a golden calf. This world, you see different gods that they worship, not Yahweh. See, but he gave the command right off the bat, but they were quick to turn from him after all the things that he has done. It says, "You should not make yourself an idol in the form of anything in the heavens above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to the thousand generation of those who love me and keep my commandments." So we can't worship other things, like I said, other than Yahweh. Because Yahweh, he said he's a jealous Elohim. Yahweh, he's going to get angry because all the things he has done for you throughout your life, and to turn your back on him, don't you think that that's hurtful to someone? They looked out for you all the days of your life, and then all of a sudden you want to turn to something else that you didn't even know about, that doesn't even do anything, can't breathe, can't give life. How do you turn from Yahweh and turn to nothing? Basically, that's what it is. But that's the mindset of the world. It says, "You shall not misuse the name of Yahweh your Elohim, for Yahweh will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name." It says, "Remember the Shabbat day by keeping it Kodesh." It says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat to Yahweh your Elohim. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor your stranger within your gates. It says, for in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. So he's not going to make you do anything that he hasn't done himself. And then who are you to say, I'm not going to take my rest on the Shabbat when Yahweh himself did? You know, he's giving you a day of rest, but you saying that you don't want to do it, that's just foolish. So let's go into these. Let's go to Exodus 34. Talking about how he tells us not to worship anything else besides him. He gives us the command. So Exodus 34, I'm going to start at the 8th verse. Moshe bowed down to the ground at once and worshiped. O Yahweh, if I have found favor in your eyes, he said, then let Yahweh go with us. Although this is a stiff-necked people, forgive our wickedness and our sins, and take us as your inheritance. Now, that's tough to have someone like Moshe to lead the people, because when they went astray, he cried out to Yahweh, please have mercy on these people, because Yahweh was about to destroy them all. But Moshe, he loved the people. He said, Yahweh, have mercy on them. So just to have somebody in their presence, they were lucky that he was there, or they would have been destroyed altogether. It says, then Yahweh said, I am making a covenant with you before all your people. I will do wonders never before done in any nation in all the world. The people you live among will see how awesome is the work that I, Yahweh, will do for you. Obey what I command you this day. It says, I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or they will be a snare among you. See, be careful being among the people. You want to do what they're doing. They're going to trap you into those different gods that they worship. They're going to trap you into different things that Yahweh did not command of you. So he says, take note of that and don't go in their ways. Yahweh has made a way of life for you to follow. So you don't have to make your own way. You don't have to go in the ways of the nation. Yahweh has a specific way for you, so we have to abide by that. It says, break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Now, we have a picture of that when in the lost books, how Abraham or Abram, he tore his father's idols up. He knew that was wrong. He knew Almighty Yahweh is the only one to worship. Why do you have these idols in here? So he bust them all up. See, he knew he was following the ways of Yahweh so much. Yahweh called him his friend. Yahweh knew, okay, this man is going to do what I command. He says, do not worship any god or any of their gods, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Elohim. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land, for when they prostitute themselves to their gods and sacrifice to them, they will invite you and you will eat their sacrifices. See, they don't care about you. They gonna invite you in to get you going the error, and you not being aware, not listening, and doing what Yahweh commands. You gonna go the same way they going, and that's ultimately gonna lose your life. That's ultimately going to lead to that lake of fire. It says, and when you choose some of their daughters as wives for your sons, and those daughters prostitute themselves to their gods, they will lead your sons to do the same. Now, he says, don't go in the ways of the nation. You see, we are scattered among the nations, but we don't have to follow them. He clearly says, come out of her. Come out of all this wickedness and foolishness that's going on in this world. I have a way of life that is perfect for you. I have chosen you out of all the nations of the world. I am with you. So why would you turn your back? Why would you go ahead and worship something that is nothing? So I want to talk about someone that went astray. This is a great man. He went astray. He did. Yahweh gave the command, don't go in the ways of the other nations, but he did. So let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 11. Talking about King Shalom or King Solomon. This is verse 1. It says, King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. They were from nations about which Yahweh had told the Israelites, you must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. See, Yahweh told him not to do it, but he let the women lead him astray. So as Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after their gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to Yahweh his Elohim, as the heart of David his father had been. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of Yahweh. He did not follow Yahweh completely. See, Yahweh says fully, with all your heart, but he didn't follow him completely, as David his father had done. Even on a hill east of Jerusalem, Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. He did the same for his foreign wives, who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their gods. He let them lead him astray, even after Yahweh gave him the command. See, like it's doing the same thing this day. Yahweh tells us to do things, we still go in our own ways, still worship things that are not of him. See, these things we have to learn. He puts these things in his Torah for our learning. So we have to learn from those things we have done in the past and go away from it. We can't continue to go sin, a continuous cycle. We have to be aware of our sin and go far from it. That's what his feast days coming up is about. We have to get rid of all of that. Get that out your mind. Quit having that continuous cycle throughout your life. Since Yahweh became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, although he had forbidden Solomon to follow their gods. Solomon did not keep Yahweh's command. So Yahweh said to Solomon, since this is your attitude and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. See, there's a price to pay when we just clearly disobey Yahweh. When we have told something, he says, listen and do, and we go the opposite way. We have told something and we do the complete opposite. So there's a price to pay for that. It says, nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it during your lifetime. See, like I said, it's always tough to have someone in your presence, like Moshe, like David, Yahweh, look over certain things because those people were great in his eyes. And since you were a part of him, he had mercy on you. We should be happy for that. That's just to know, okay, certain people that throughout these scriptures that are part of Israel, he had mercy on certain people in Israel because you were linked to them. So it says, nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David, my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. So Yahweh has mercy. Yahweh has Hasid for Israel. So it's not to take it for granted. We can't walk in sin and think, okay, Yahweh is going to just overlook everything that we do. No, we have to recognize that sin and go away from it. Yahweh, like I said, he has mercy on his people, but that stuff wears out. He's not going to continually have mercy on you if you're going to continually sin. Because, like I said before, when you cry out to him, when you pray to him, he's not going to listen to you. He is going to turn his back on you because you turn your back on him. So we don't want to get to that point where we anger Yahweh that much where he just stopped listening to us, where he's turned us over to our wickedness. So we have to draw closer to Yahweh. These days coming up, we have to pay strict attention to them and take great delight in them. Let's go to Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah chapter 3. Starting at verse 2. It says, look up to the barren heights and see, is there any place where you have not been ravished? By the roadside you sat waiting for lovers, sat like a nomad in the wilderness. You have defiled the land with your prostitution and wickedness. Therefore, showers have been withheld, and no spring rain has fallen. And you see throughout the scriptures where Yahweh says he's not going to bring that rain down on the land. Anytime there's wickedness, anytime people are not obeying him, he will not have that rain come down on the land. That rain brings the food. So if you don't have no food, it's gonna be famine. So one way or the other, he's gonna get your attention. And if you don't have food, you're in famine, you in destitute. So that's when you're gonna really cry out to Yahweh and ask for his help. Like I said, he's gonna get your attention one way or the other. So it says, yet you have the brazen look as a prostitute. You refuse to blush with shame. I'm for sure we all have been in certain circumstances where we have done something that embarrassed us so much that we was like, okay, I can't do that again. You know, then you walked away from it. You were shameful, but you walked away from it and didn't go back to it. But it says you refuse to be shameful of those things. Have you not just called to me, my Abba, my friend from my youth? Will you always be angry? Will your wrath continue forever? See, that's us crying out to Yahweh when things, disaster strike, trouble comes. Yahweh, will you always be angry? Will your wrath last forever? It says this is how you talk, but you do all the evil you can. You continue to do it. So why cry out to me when trouble comes? All you have to do is turn from your evil ways and follow him. Then all the troubles that you are having will go away. But you bringing this on yourself. It says verse 6, during the reign of King Josiah, Yahweh said to me, have you seen what faithless Israel has done? She has gone up on every high hill and under every spreading tree and has committed adultery there. I thought that after she had done all this, she would return to me, but she did not. And her unfaithful sister Yehuda saw it. I gave faithless Israel her certificate of divorce and sent her away because of all her adulteries. So that's Yahweh saying, okay, I'm done with you. Now you want to continue to do your filth, then okay, continue to do it. I'm not going to help you. It says, yet I saw that her unfaithful sister Yehuda had no fear. She also went out and committed adultery. Because Israel's immorality mattered so little to her, she defiled the land and committed adultery with stone and wood. In spite of all this, her unfaithful sister Yehuda did not return to me with all her heart, but only in pretense, declares Yahweh. See that, like we committing adultery when we don't follow Yahweh. We follow other things other than Yahweh. Why? Because Yahweh says he is married unto us. Israel is a bride. So whenever we do something other than what he says, we follow other things other than him, it's just like committing adultery. So, like I said, and it says faithless Israel. We have to have faith in him and trust in him. I said when we do things other than what he says, that shows that we don't trust him. That shows we don't have any faith in him. The things that he says in this book doesn't mean anything to us because we continually do our thing, continually disobey him. So we can't be like that. We have to turn from our ways. Let's go to book of Job or Job. And in Exodus 20, how it says, do not misuse Yahweh. You know how sometimes when people get angry, they call him out of his name, trouble hit, they why this, why that. You hear people all the time in the world say, God damn it, that's you using the Yahweh's name in vain. Even though he's not a God, get that straight, because all the gods in the nations are idols, but Yahweh made the heavens. But you saying that to the creator, not even aware of what are you saying. So, but when we get angry, we can't go out at Yahweh and think, okay, it's his fault all the time. No, it's our fault. Yahweh gives us the commands. We had to obey them. And when we don't, that's when that trouble comes. So we had to blame ourselves. Let's go to Job, chapter 2. Job was a great man. He stayed in the ways of Yahweh. He didn't care what came his way. We had to be strengthened through this man because he went through a lot, things that we haven't been through, but he endured through them all. So, Job chapter 2, I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, Yahweh said to Shaitan, have you considered my servant Job? Because Yahweh knew this man was upright. Yahweh knew whatever come his way, he was going to endure it. So that's why he offered him up to Shaitan. It says, there is no one on earth like him. Now there had to be a time that no one on earth was like this man. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears Yahweh and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason. Skin for skin, Shaitan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. Like I said, we sometimes certain things come against us, and we say different things to Yahweh is hurtful to Yahweh. It's not Yahweh's fault. But this man, he didn't curse Yahweh out, all the things that went his way. So it says, verse 6, Yahweh said to Shaitan, very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. Now he tested Job. Now, like he's going to test all of us to see how faithful we're going to be with him. And he not going to give you anything that you can't bear. So whenever Yahweh tests you, he knows that you can get out of it. And he makes a way out of everything that comes against you. So it says, so Shaitan went out from the presence of Yahweh and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery, scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. Have we had to go through anything like that? So we have no excuse if this man, he endured all of that. Any little things that may come our way, we don't have an excuse to break down and give up. He relied on Almighty Yahweh. He knew Yahweh would see him through all of that. So we must do the same. It says, his wife said to him, are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse Yahweh and die. So Shaitan, he had used other people to try to get you to go astray. So Shaitan got into her and tried to get Job to curse Yahweh out and die. Knowing Yahweh knew he wasn't going to do that. But he wanted to prove Yahweh wrong. So he replied, you are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from Yahweh and not trouble? Because every day of your life is not going to be good. It's not going to be all roses, petals, tulips, nothing come your way. Now you're going to have some trouble also. You're going to have rough times. But if everything was good, you think people will follow Yahweh? He's going to bring trouble towards you sometimes just to get your attention. So you will follow him and not go astray. Follow him and not go in the ways of the world. So he told her, okay, should we accept good and not trouble? And then all this, Job did not sin in what he said. So Job was a great man, like I said, and he endured all of those sufferings that came about to him. If you read in even the testaments of Job, you see how he went up against Shaitan, and Shaitan had to basically tap out. Shaitan told him, okay, I can't enter you. You endured, so Shaitan flee. So we have to be the same in our vessel. We have to stay clean. We have to not let Shaitan get into us. Shaitan to get us to go astray. We have to fight Shaitan. And then another way you can do that is cry out to Yahweh. Whenever you're going through something, don't bend out of shape. Don't give up. Cry out to Yahweh, and Yahweh is going to help you. That's what he wants us to do. He wants us to rely solely on him. Not on man, not on anything else. Rely solely on him. That's why it says, I am Yahweh your Elohim. I'm a jealous Elohim. Do not rely on anything else. So, speaking of how Shaitan tries to get people to go astray, that's how he got Mother Hawaii. Yahweh gave them the command, right, at the beginning. Told them what to do and what not to do. But Shaitan, he slipped. He tried to come up and come behind right after Yahweh tells you what to do. He's going to come behind Yahweh and try to get you to go astray. Try to whisper in your ear like, yeah, Yahweh didn't really mean this. You can actually do this. So he went to Mother Hawaii and they went astray. Got Adam to go astray because he listened to Mother Hawaii. So like I said, we can't let that happen. We have to pay strict attention to what Yahweh has to tell us, what Yahweh commands of us. Let's go to book of Exodus. Because in Exodus 20, when it says remember the Shabbat, I want to go to Exodus 31. How Yahweh takes the Shabbat serious and how we should take it serious also. It says in Exodus 31:12, Yahweh said to Moshe, say to the Israelites, you must observe my Shabbats. This will be a sign between me and you for generations to come. So you may know that I am Yahweh who makes you Kodesh. That's a sign. Us following this. You don't see the whole world worshiping on the Shabbat. But when you see your brethren, your fellow Israelites worshiping Yahweh on the Shabbat, that shows that you are with him. That is a sign, Israel. So that's Yahweh takes that serious. It says, observe the Shabbat because it is Kodesh to you. Anyone who desecrates it must be put to death. Whoever does any work on that day must be cut off from his people. It says, for 6 days work is to be done, but the 7th day is Shabbat of rest. Kodesh to Yahweh. It says, whoever does any work on the Shabbat day must be put to death. And can you imagine that this day, if that happened, people didn't observe the Shabbat, put to death, that would get everybody attention. Like, okay, I don't want to be put to death. I'm going to observe his Shabbat. He's serious. But in a way, if you look at it, just because you're not being put to death this day, if you continually not obey him and not observe his Shabbat, that's what it's going to lead to anyway. It's going to lead to death. So, like I said, Yahweh takes this serious if he's going to put someone to death for not obeying him. The Israelites are to observe the Shabbat, celebrating it for the generation to come as a lasting covenant. It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever, not 1 day, 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, forever. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he abstained from work and rested. He did it himself. So if he did that himself and allowed you to have a day to rest, we should want to rest. But this world shows you don't need to rest. This world is fast paced. You want to get the money. You don't need a rest. You want to work all the days of your life. But Yahweh knows that's taxing on the body. Yahweh knows all things. Yahweh knows what's good for you. So when he tells you to rest, you should rest. It says when Yahweh finished speaking, to Moshe on Mount Sinai. He gave him the two tablets of testimony, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of Yahweh. So those are the relationship between you and him. Those four commandments broke down all four of them, how it's very important. That's how we draw closer to Almighty Yahweh. So let's go to this is Hebrews. It's Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please Yahweh. Like it said earlier, we have to have faith in him. We have to trust in him, because that is how we're going to please him. That's how we're going to draw closer to him. It says, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So if we drawing closer to him, earnestly seeking him, he will reward you. It's not just words in the book. Like I said, we have to believe that we walking in this way and we're gonna get rewarded for it. We're not just walking this way and then at the end it was done for nothing. No, Yahweh cannot lie. So take heed to what Yahweh says. Speaking of faith, let's go to James. This is James chapter 2, starting at verse 14. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? That goes back on listening and doing. If you listen and don't actually do what he says, what good is it? Verse 18 says, but someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do. You believe that there's one Elohim. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. See, they believe Yahweh. They know of Yahshua, but the demons, Shaitan is not going to turn and do good or be righteous. So what is that the difference from us? If we hear his word and not doing it, how is that different? So we had to set ourselves apart from the world. And how do you do that? We keep everything that he commands. And like I said, these things that he commands is not hard at all. When he gives us things to do, he knows that we can make it. He knows that we are a Kodesh nation and nothing will be able to stop us. But like I said, Israel has to just believe in it and following his ways all the days of their lives. Now, speaking of that, I want to show you one that truly had faith, that walked in Yahweh's ways and didn't bend, didn't go astray. No, he stuck to what Yahweh told him. Let's go to Genesis. Now, this is a true test right here. Genesis chapter 22. Talking about Abraham. Yahweh tested this man also. This is Abraham. This is Genesis 22:1. Say Yahweh tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am. He Then Yahweh said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. So that right there get a lot of people like, okay, now I don't know about that, sacrificing my only son, but that's significant right there. Yahweh did that. Yahweh had Yahshua sacrifice for the sins of the world. So that's significant. It says early the next morning, Abraham got up and saddled his ass. He took him with two of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place Yahweh had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the ass, while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and wood are here, Isaac said. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, Yahweh himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the two of them went on together. When they reached the place Yahweh had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on the top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. So Yahweh seen, okay, he knows every person's heart of their mind, what they're thinking. So without him even sacrificing his son, he knew he was going to do it. But then they stopped it. It says, but the angel of Yahweh called out to him from the heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear Yahweh, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. So Yahweh knew, okay, why do you think he called him his friend? Yahweh knew, okay, this man is upright. This man is going to do everything that I command, to the point where he was going to sacrifice his son. Now, see, like I said, when he tests us, he knows that we're going to go through, we can make it through it. This man, he tested him with sacrificing his son. So, but he didn't ask that of any of us, but he was going to do it. Now, anything that we go through, we can do it also. Like I said, Yahweh knows when he tests us, we can do it. There's a way out of anything that comes up against us. It says on verse 15, the angel of Yahweh called to Abraham from heaven the second time and said, I swear by myself, declares Yahweh, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely baruch you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand of the seashore. He's going to do all of that just because he listened to Yahweh. That is a great thing within himself. So your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be baruched, because you have obeyed me. Just because this man obeyed. You see, that says all nations on earth will be baruched. So if we look back on the different people in this book and see the things that they had to go through, and we should be strengthened through all the things that they came out of, because it doesn't compare to anything that we going through. So anything we going through, we can look back at these things and say, okay, that's nothing. Anything we come up against, we can make it. So Yahweh says, just rely on him wholeheartedly. Draw closer to him, Israel. That's how we're going to make it. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, starting at verse 14. It says, thanks be to Yahweh, who always leads us into triumphal procession in the Messiah, and through us spreads everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of him. For we are to Yahweh the aroma of the Messiah among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. That's a sweet fragrance that Yahweh smells whenever we are doing the things that we need to be doing, obeying him, doing the will of Yahweh, like Yahshua HaMashiach did. We're going to have that aroma of him, because we are walking in his ways, walking in the ways of Yahshua. So Yahweh will be very pleased when we doing the things that even Yahshua has done. So that's what we want. We want to take after Yahshua HaMashiach and not belittle him, not consider him as no one. No, this man was very great. I mean, he sacrificed himself for the sins of the world. So we have to take great delight in knowing that Yahshua did that he sacrificed himself for the sins of you, me, everyone. So we will have a chance to see salvation. So, and then this is the season coming up. It's about Yahshua. So we must uplift Yahshua at all times. Let's go to my closing scripture. This is Ephesians chapter 5, starting at verse 8. It says, for you were once darkness, but now you are light in Yahshua. Live as children of the light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. And find out what pleases Yahweh. See, we want to find out what pleases him so we can walk in his ways all the days of our lives. So that's doing that, we have to seek him out. We have to have a relationship with him. Just don't think about others. It has to be yourself. You have to look out for yourself because it's your soul on the line. It says, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible. For it is light that makes everything visible. Everything, all the sins, wickedness that we do or the world does, it's going to be exposed. Can't keep it to ourselves forever because Yahweh is going to expose all that wickedness. It says, this is why it says, wake up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and the Messiah will shine on you. So we have to wake up, Israel. We have to take this serious. We have to be one with Yahshua HaMashiach so he can shine within us. Like I said, he's in each and every one of us as long as we obey Yahweh. So he will shine through us and we will be on our way, like it said at the beginning. We'll be on our way to that pleasant, that peaceful kingdom that he has in store for all that walk in his ways. Hallelujah. So that concludes my message for this evening. I ask that we all stand as we go into prayer. Abba Yahweh, we stand before you today to ask to forgive us for any amount of sins that we may have done. Forgive us of anything that may have angered you, Almighty Yahweh. Clean our vessels. Help us to walk upright, walk in your ways all the days of our lives. Help us to have you in our mindset. Help us to have a prayerful state of mind. Help us to walk in your Kodesh days clean and pure. Abba Yahweh, put it in your people minds the seriousness of this time of year, the seriousness of following in your ways. This Almighty Yahweh is the beginning. Abba Yahweh, help us to draw away from any amount of wickedness or evil, and let's walk in the light of Yahshua. Abba Yahweh, look over us this evening. Help us to get a good night rest. Help us to wake up refreshed, ready to come into your temple and hear the word of Yahweh. In Yahshua HaMashiach's name we pray. Hallelujah.